Great.
And we're up and recording. Good morning and greetings, everybody. Not good morning. It's good morning this side, but you'll probably be listening to this in multiple time zones or whatever. But anyway, greetings, everybody. This is the Art Lexcia podcast. And we're on episode 177, so that's pretty cool. Closing on that 200. So that's another little goal that I've set myself. Anyway, today I've got a very cool festival, mini conference, like we call it, not festival, but it's part of a bigger festival. If you guys know, I spoke to PJ Sabacha about the My Body, My Space public. Well, there's another thingy, but it's a dance festival in Mpumalanga. So today we're talking about the soil, seed, songs, and shows, new tools for changing times. It's quite a mouthful. And good morning, Tamara Guhrs. Thank you for coming through. So let's first start off with good morning. Welcome. And how are you?
Good morning. Thanks, Wesley. It's really exciting to be here. I'm good. I'm in Emakhazeni, and we are preparing for this afternoon's conference. And it looks like the weather's going to hold, which is great for us.
Yeah. PJ is also complaining about when we spoke about a month ago about the rain and it's kind of messing up. But I understand that part of the world. So for any of our international people, like, and I say this every week, we talk a lot about the weather in South Africa, a lot. Yeah, but let's jump into it. Tamara, can you first start off with just give us an overview of what the conference is about, and we'll take it. We'll unpack it bit by bit after that.
Great. Yeah, so the conference comes out of a research residency that FATSI has been involved in or has initiated, I suppose, which was funded by Pro Helvetia, and it's called the Synergies Residency. And it was actually, the call was for an intersection between science, particularly climate science, art, and tech. So this fitted so well with the work that Forgotten Angle is already doing on the farm with their rural dance program that they run. And maybe just a little bit of background will help
please.
us the whole thing. So Forgotten Angle, they were a Joburg-based company for many, many years. We're talking like 10 years ago, they moved from Joburg to this little piece of land outside Emakhazeni in Mpumalanga, and it's a dance program that's all about creating access, right, in marginal spaces where people don't necessarily have access. They were reaching about 3,000 kids a month prior to COVID, and so it was all about the dance and the art side of things. Then during COVID, it was suddenly very apparent, as it was for many of us, that it's not enough to just be focusing on the art side of things. We started to realize that, the communities that we serve through the arts program, through schools and so on, food insecurity is a big deal. And it started to become very clear that we can't just have this one approach to community development. And gradually, over the last 5 years, Forgotten Angle has been incorporating small-scale agriculture into the work that they do, and also admin, so training future arts leaders, right, in the skills of how do you put together funding proposals, how do you organize, how do you make your project sustainable. And that, I guess, was the background and the origin. And we started to realize that all of these practices happened to start with A. There was activism, there was arts, there was agriculture. So we've coined this phrase, the A practice, which is really about tackling complex problems using a multifaceted approach, right? Because there's not just one aspect to these problems. It's economic, it's environmental, it's climate, it's food insecurity. If you're making art, you also need to be able to feed yourself. And if you're making art that has an activist focus, in other words, that's maybe critical or whatever, then you also maybe need to be less dependent on your donors for sustainability. You need to be able to look after yourself in a different way. So that's really the origin behind it. And then the residency has been ongoing last year and this year. We teamed up with a climate activist and cultural leader called Barbara Ellenberger, who was part of this. So she's from Switzerland, because it was the Pro Helvetia angle.
Yeah.
We needed to work with in Switzerland, and she had actually been on a residency here before and was very inspired by what we do. And I think the reason for that is because she sees, as many of us do, that it's really the artists who can lead this conversation in a space where we're in uncharted territory. It's the artists who are going to have the vision, the innovation, the imagination to kind of lead the change, right? And to devise solutions. But we can't speak just in our little silo. We also need to be connecting with scientists, and technology to get the message out and all of that. So yeah, that's my very long intro to explain where this conference
Brilliant. Thank you.
comes from. Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm a firm believer of what Fela Kuti used to say: music is a weapon, art is a weapon, it's a tool for social change. So big up to that. That's brilliant. You actually mentioned quite a bit there. I actually want to start off with just tell me how you guys fall part of the My Body, My Space Festival. What is the relationship between what you guys are doing today and how does it work, or is it two separate conferences or festivals?
So it's not really separate. I mean, My Body, My Space culminates on the weekend with this big kind of public arts festival on the streets of Emakhazeni. The lead up to it is what they call the Arteries program,
Nice
where
work.
it's the whole week. There's artists and facilitators and teaching artists who are going to schools and community sites, and they're working with FATSI's beneficiary groups to kind of have an intensive week of workshops. So that's kind of, in a way, it's on the peripheries, and then we come together on the Friday evening and Saturday. And so this afternoon is the conference moment. And I mean, it's not separate in the sense that all of these aspects of Forgotten Angles work lean into each other, right? So this is the agri team, so the people who've been doing the permaculture and the small scale farming internships here are working with the dance team, with a whole bunch of community practitioners who are part of FATSI's alumni program. They are all contributing. So this afternoon it's not a conference where we're all going to sit and talk. There will be a panel discussion moment, but we're walking around the site at the school, which has been our kind of project site, which I'll talk a little bit more about. We've got performances. We've got how to make compost demonstration. We've got, we're really trying to find the intersection between these practices. So it's not just farming over here, arts over here, admin over here, but really how do we all speak together and work together? So it's a moment, the conference is a moment of going, this is where we've got to in our research project. We're showing you where we are. We're talking a little bit about it. We're connecting as a community, opening it up a little bit. Drama for Life are going to be here because they're here this week. And looking at how we can really seed this further, if you know what I mean. And
Brilliant,
the conference kicks tomorrow. Yeah.
Like I said, this is really cool. This is really cool. Okay, so I get that. Thank you. What I want to know, like you mentioned, you're working with a whole bunch of different. You mentioned people in tech, you mentioned people in agriculture, and in arts. If I was just reading that if I didn't know what this festival was about, and I read those three names in one sentence, I want to I personally I wouldn't know, but I would assume not everybody would. Those are pretty interesting people to bring together. That actually tackles. And also one thing, I just want to mention this. I don't necessarily want to ask about it, but the fact that you guys are focusing on small scale farming, which is brilliant, and trying to offer solutions for that, which I think is brilliant because as we know, art. One of the things that I also champion a lot on this platform is that art is also a form of not critical thinking of thinking about I guess the word I forgot it for whatever reason, but thinking creatively and thinking they like call us out of the box thinking, which I think can be used in every field, if you ask me, from corporate to finance to everything. So I think it's brilliant that you are using this for agriculture. So can you just give us a little bit a bit more intake into the type of farmers you guys are working with? You mentioned talking about how you make compost, which is very interesting. So can you just give us a little bit insight into that? What type of solutions are you looking for, and how he's working with the local community?
So it started again, like I said, during COVID, they started to look at growing organic farming, doing organic farming and growing organic vegetables as on site as part of their operations, just as a kind of community service type of thing. And then from there, it grew into actually training people. So the science part of this program is that it's looking at permaculture, soil science, all of that. It's very much looking at involving local people who have been part of the program, have come through Fatsi's program in some way. So they actually have an internship through First Rand, where they have dance interns, agri interns, and then people who have graduated from that program are now community practitioners. So we've got a group of about, oh gosh, I don't have the number offhand, but I think it's about 12 people in total from the community practitioners group who some of them are specializing in the agriculture part, and it's really about permaculture. So it's about how do you become self-sufficient, how do you make your own soil, make your own not pesticides, because you can use pesticides, do insect control through planting and all of that kind of thing. And the idea, and then also we're looking at after the harvest, can we preserve, can we bottle, can we make pickles,
that's a good point.
All those aspects. So that's been Caro Tapson has inputted in that regard. But like I say, it's not really separate. What we're trying to do with the synergies idea is to bring these things together. So how do you, if you're thinking about compost, for example, how do you take the idea of making compost, which is really this kind of magical transformational process? You take waste materials, you put it in a certain way, you layer it in a certain way, and then you leave it, and it turns into something really valuable, right? To quote Caro, who's completely passionate about compost, if you were to think in the same way about artistic process, right? Don't we do the same as artists?
Very good point.
Take from the world around us, we kind of digest it, and it comes out as something valuable, whether that's a song or a piece of music or a story or a piece of theater.
That's a brilliant analogy.
And there's also this idea, because we have this problem in our industry, the creative industry I'm talking about now, with burnout, right? So this idea of, if we're looking at the soil, and the soils in mass agriculture, right, are depleted because we just like planting every year, we're not rotating properly, we're having to add fertilizers to the soil, the topsoil's running off because of rain, all of these kinds of issues. Isn't it the same with us as artists, where we're becoming burned out, our creative soil is depleted? We use these words, we say like you need fertility to create, all of that. But actually, if we start to think of them in a more integrated way, it's about bringing that thinking together.
Brilliant.
I don't know if that makes sense. And then you
No, it
asked about
makes
the tech.
sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. So then the tech piece is we're not kind of there yet in our process, but the idea is that, you know, these discoveries that we're making and this kind of thinking that FATSI is generating, this knowledge that we're generating, needs to be shared. So the tech piece is then how do we create content that is easily disseminated with other municipalities? We need to talk about that bit. Who want to, you know, create similar projects in their spaces, or with artists, or with families, or schools, or, you know, how do we take these very simple or maybe complex ideas, but make them more simple so that people can replicate them in their own spaces.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear what you're saying. I hear you got another point?
No. I'm just thinking about.
Oh,
I mean, I could keep going. You know, as you can hear, I'm passionate about this stuff, so
yeah,
I
I
can
can
just.
hear. No, no, it comes through. Like you were saying, you guys are working with a municipality. You mentioned the Swiss funding program. There's also you mentioned Trauma for Life and so forth. So just mention, or you can just talk about the other partners that's involved and sort of the, you know, your guys' relationship with it and how you're working with it.
Sure. I mean, the Pro Health bit is really just the funding for the residency and the research, and then out of the research we will have content and articles and so forth. The relationship, the other partners, I mean, we're at the school currently. This is where I'm sitting, where we have this is the sort of HQ for the festival itself and for the conference. And this part is now really exciting because there's been this kind of placemaking element to the work. And what I mean by that is that, you know, when you talk about climate change, it's such a big issue. And when you talk about environmental problems, we actually need to just start from where we are and from the places that we're in. And there's been this amazing kind of synergy, I guess, that's started to happen. So this school is it's a small school in Emakhazeni, and it's part of the site is kind of needs development, right? Like all school spaces, there's the need for development. So we've kind of decided to pilot our project here. So there's this kind of area behind me where there's broken concrete and there's an old netball court and there's you know, it's kind of like an undeveloped area where the kids aren't really allowed to go. So that's where we're going to create vegetable garden,
Okay.
container, a greenhouse,
Okay.
a compost site, a performance area, and so on. And part of our involvement with the community practitioners is we've said, okay, pick a site in your community, a site that you feel needs to be that's like that hasn't got like a positive energy to it or whatever, and how would you start to imagine it differently? And this is the exciting part, is that when we connected with the municipality, there's a very dynamic leader called Mongani Setu, who is already doing all kinds of greening. He's got an incredible vision, and it starts to overlap. So he's got this idea of adopt a site. They're already doing tree planting or whatever. So places where illegal dumping is happening, for example, he's offering those places to adopters to use them in more generative ways. So if you've got, you know, this whole idea of, we know that our municipalities are struggling, that there's crumbling infrastructure and all of that. So this idea of the A practice and the synergies is about going, how do we work together and kind of take power back into the hands of just ordinary people who can make the difference, who have the energy, have the imagination to do something about it. So can an illegal dumping site become a vegetable garden, a public vegetable garden, or a creche, or a, you know, and how do we then just in these small using sites
I hear
and
what you're
places.
saying.
Yeah.
What you just a point on that. What you're saying is actually how can I put it to you? Those issues, like my illegal dumping, for example, that's all over the country, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it's something I personally can't stand. And I personally got a bit of an issue with. But yeah, that's brilliant. So sort of creating answers to these problems, which are affecting, she's probably millions of South Africans as we speak, is brilliant. So you also mentioned that you guys are. I sort of make a point on this, and quiz you about it afterwards. Um, about making this, I guess, the information about the festival sort of public, or not public, but broadcast it to other stakeholders and people and so forth. I guess, well, I will definitely help in that regard, but I also feel that this thing, it seems like these type of solutions and type of initiatives is exactly what we're needing, and not political answers for every single thing. I think history will tell you that those are not really very good, sustainable answers. So, is there? I mean, talking to PJ some time back, I got a sense of that there's a real deep relationship with the local community, and you mentioned that you're asking the community like sort of what is affecting their areas, and then sort of work according to what they want. So can you just give me some insight into that, man? About your relationship, about the project relationship with the community. It sounds like it goes pretty deep, and it sounds like it's working. Is that a correct assumption?
I mean, it always feels too slow, and it always
Oh,
feels like, but I think that's part of it. I think it has to be. I think to be deep, it has to be slow. So the relationships are here. There's no doubt about that. And it's also the power of having a festival here in the way that they do every year for 10 years, and that people slowly, it starts to grow. And it's about the social connections and the ties and the relationships that people have with the project through PJ and Zecho, and their amazing team, Nico and Nelly and these guys who just like, we call them the no give uppers, because in spite of all the challenges, they don't give up. It's like a thing, no give upping. What was I going to say? That those relationships are real, and they're there, and they are deep. But I think it does take time for the actual to start to see the fruits of it. And I mean, no doubt it's happening. What we focused on in our workshops with the community practitioners that are all they're all come from the previous programs with Forgotten Angle, and they're all from here. So those relationships are there, they're real, and there's a dynamic team of amazing people with amazing ideas. And we've been using this process called design thinking. So the idea is that you start by defining the problem, and then you start to imagine solutions. And it's really an open process of imagining. And then you kind of go back and interrogate those ideas that you've had and look at how practical are they? Who do we connect with? Who else is doing this kind of thing? And then we start to prototype. So we're kind of in the prototyping phase at the moment. And whether we actually, how soon we actually implement those solutions is still to be seen. That's, from this project. But, it's always easy to say, how can I put this? It's like we're impatient for change, I guess. As a society, we're hurtful. We want
oh
the
yeah,
change now.
oh yeah.
And I think it really is time for us to just go, look, we can't wait anymore. We actually cannot wait for people in power to effect those changes. We have to find different strategies. We have to work with people. And, I mean, I'm sitting looking at this playground here with these swings made of tires, and then they're going to use tires to plant food in at the, at the school. And it's like there's lots of different uses for tires. We can burn them and blockade roads, and protest is an important part of our vocabulary in this country. But there's other things we can do with those
Yeah,
tires.
yeah.
And that's a simplistic way of putting
No,
it. But I
no, I
think
hear you.
about that. Yeah.
I hear you. I just want to make a point on the fact that you're saying that these things take time, and that's the truth. I think part reason of that is that we're living in a time where everything information happens very quickly. Food, I can give entertainment. It's all on demand. It's quick. It's fast. So you sort of get used to things coming quick and fast, and then major issues like you're talking about. There's also an expectation and I do think that these things take time. You also mentioned of fostering relationships with communities, and and doing this for there's a 10th year that the My Body My Space is happening. Those type of things take time, and I'm well aware of that, and I think my listeners are also well aware of that. And I think there's also a lot of you should firstly, I mean, to do that for so long needs, the buzzword is you must get your flowers for that, and that really is so these things do take time. However, I do think more people should hear about it, and also the fact that you're looking for alternative. I mean, I can't overstress how important that is in 2025, because things is just bonkers everywhere. Um, yeah.
There's a lovely quote by a thinker and writer called Bayo Akomolafe, who he says, "Times are urgent. Let's slow down."
Good one. I like that.
And I think that's because part of that whole rush of, as you say, the instant gratification culture, that's part of our problem, isn't it? And we actually need to go, okay, again, we come back to compost.
Yeah. All you need. Yeah.
And it's the same. You plant a seed, you can't dig it up and see how it's doing.
You need
The
care of
potatoes are
it.
there doing their thing. But
Yeah.
let's plant it now, as they're ready in the time when it's time to get them out the ground.
You are right, and I just think that's a very valid point to be made. So where in I guess in modern time things might be taking long, but in actual fact, the fact that it is moving, that there is you can see what you're doing. That already in itself I think is massive, and many congrats to that. Tamara, let's actually just look at the technical thing. Is the formal stuff. You guys say you've got a mini conference today that the My Body My Space Festival happens, you say on Friday, I think it's tomorrow. So it's just yeah. So just explain to us a little bit about that. Is this a once-off thingy? What are you guys going to be doing today? And stuff about what's actually going to be happening today.
Cool. So it's here at Chazon Tekna School, and the artists are already in town, and the teaching artists and facilitators are already in town doing workshops in all the schools. So this afternoon we all gather at the school from 2 p.m. and we have, I think, 9 mini performances that are going to happen, all in response. So they've all come out of this research residency, right? So they're all in response to this idea of the ecological crisis, the economic crises, the social problems that we all face. They're kind of they've come out of that. So those are created by the community practitioners that we've been working with. We then have a panel discussion, which is really looking at what we've just been talking about, the idea of placemaking, the idea of turning trash into art or into treasure. All of those ideas are going to be discussed, and we're hoping that the municipal manager will actually join us for that discussion. And then we have a presentation of what we're calling the matrix of action, which is
I read that. Yeah, tell me about that. That sounds very cool. Yeah.
It's a little bit complicated to explain in words. It's sort of a visual thing that needs to be unpacked and presented, but it's really it's what we've developed in response to all of this thinking. I guess it's a way of saying, how do we look at this ecological crisis in a way that doesn't overwhelm us? And how do we like almost like put it in one frame so that we can go, okay, how do we work? How do we take action instead of just
react,
scrolling and going into a, you know. So there's 4 kind of fields of action that we've identified. The first one is about reconnecting to nature, learning from nature, those kinds of ideas. But that on its own is not enough. We also need to boycott, break away from our destructive patterns, and so forth. And then we also need to reclaim more healthy ways of working with nature that are less extractive. And then we need to support and nurture and work with each other and with community. So it's this kind of framework for looking at the problem and positioning yourself, I guess. Are you an activist or a farmer or a, you know, and how do we make decisions also as cultural organizations? How do we interrogate our decision-making process to see that it's less harmful in terms of our ecological footprint? I don't know if that makes sense, but so
it does.
we're going to be that as well.
It makes complete sense, and it actually wraps up everything quite lovely. One last question. So, you know, man, I like to believe that, or rather, this is I'm talking from my personal capacity over here, is that I think that in these type of workshops, interventions, mini conferences, however you want to call it, the information that you're talking here should be shared everywhere. People should have access to this, because what you're talking about, I think, can people with little gardens. I don't necessarily think it's for people with farmland. So, well, you know, people that just want to think differently as well. How else can people tap into what you guys are going to be saying today? Is there videos we can access, et cetera, et cetera?
There will be. So at the moment, we're kind of in the incubating phase, but very much part of how the project is designed is that we will then generate content, videos, a kind of we're calling it a manual or a recipe book. We don't really, sorry, we've got lots of background noise because the tech team are starting to practice.
And we are wrapping up anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah. So yeah, watch the space, basically. Follow the FATSI, the Forgotten Angle Facebook page. There is a practice website, which we will be updating with our content as it starts to become more consumable, I guess. Yeah.
Brilliant, man. Tamara, as I said, like I think this is absolute revolution. You know, art is a weapon. It is a weapon for social change. And on this platform, I like to promote all of that. So many congrats. I will publish this episode today. Actually, I'll work and produce it later this morning, and I'll put it up probably this late afternoon, early this evening, maybe before that, and I'll definitely let you know. And then I'll excuse me, and then I'll chop it up into smaller videos as well, which is actually quite an effective tool. Shortened content is and it's very it can consume way more than the longer format. So I will do that in the over the next 2 days or so, and I'll be following exactly what you guys are doing. So you know, sharing, tweeting, all these social media buzzwords, and I'll be following what, as I say, I'll be following what you guys are doing, because this is fantastic. This is super fantastic. So, sort of in wrapping up, once again, thanks for coming through. I can actually see there's some movement in the background over there, so it sounds exciting. So all the best for today, and thanks for coming through, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great to talk to you. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamara. So once I'm done with the producing and everything, I'll let you know via WhatsApp. And once again, all the best for today and for the festival starting on Friday.
Oh man, thank you.
Thanks, cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.